Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jacob, and welcome back to Dress Rehearsal, the podcast where Broadway and fashion take center stage, and we dive deep on the roles that shape us on stage and off. Today's guest is taking the Broadway stage and styling world by storm, marrying her worlds of performing and fashion with her new business, Styled by Bethany. Bethany Tesarck not only can be seen dancing her butt off every night in Death Becomes Her. I mean, the gal's a Liza Minnelli body double, for God's sake. She is also curating epic looks for opening night red carpets, press moments, and everything in between. Bethany debuted on Broadway at just 7, yes, catch it, 7 years old in the Bernadette Peters revival of Gypsy. From there, she went on to be in the John Stamos revival of Bye Bye Birdie, Diana the Musical, a cult classic you can actually watch on Netflix, as well as the Hamilton Tour and so much more. Bethany is truly standing in her creative light in every facet of her artistry. She also is taking TikTok by storm with her behind the scenes look at Death Becomes Her and sharing with us what it means to build a sustainable career in this business. Please enjoy my conversation with Bethany Tesarck. And welcome, Bethany Tesarck, to the pod. How are you?
Good.
Well, we start every episode with the same question, and that is, when did you get bit by the theater bug?
Ugh, so at such a young age. Like my grandma said I came out of the womb tapping.
Obsessed.
She was my dance teacher growing up. So yeah, from the minute I could even crawl, I was like moving and grooving. So yeah, so very young age.
And it wasn't a lot of time since coming out of the womb to being on Broadway.
That's
And so
right.
I'm curious, like, what that journey was.
Yeah, 7 was my debut, even younger, which is insane. That came to fruition because of my grandma. So, like, truly, I always say, like, the reason why I do theater, I think the reason why I fell in love with it was like DNA from her. At that point, they were looking for a last minute like replacement for a young girl, and they had called local dance studios in New Jersey. I'm originally from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. My grandma's dance studio was in Kearney, New Jersey, so we would like drive back and forth. So she got a call asking if she had any like young girls at her dance studio that would be willing to come into the city and audition. And she was like, Beth, why don't we like go in and see if we like love it? At that point, like no one knew I could sing. I sort of like held a tune in Happy Birthday. But
Okay.
at one point, I wasn't doing like a 16 bar cut at 7 years old. So for fun, my grandma, my mom, and I trekked into New York, had the audition. I had to do like the infamous Baby June, shun turn, cartwheel into a split. I literally sang happy birthday for them because I had no, I did not
That's
know.
so wholesome.
It was very, yeah, couldn't be more sweet. And I booked the show that night. Literally, we were driving back home to New Jersey. I wanted to get a New York slice of pizza, I remember. And I was in the car, and my aunt was like, who was with my younger siblings at my grandma's house, like, oh my God, come home. They had just called. You call the house phone. We didn't really
Right.
have cell phones. And we showed up and they were like, you are going to be on Broadway. And I needed to start like 2 or 3 days later.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I would say like the bug not only bit, but I think it swallowed the whole family whole. Like we had no option but to just sort of like pick up and go. So
And I feel like people forget that, like, when kids book jobs, like, your entire family's world shifts.
yeah,
Like, you're not taking the train to the city by yourself with a little briefcase. Like,
I
there has
know.
to be people there to, like, support that dream.
Yeah.
And Gypsy in particular is a show that has so many kids in it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, for you, was that such a community? Because I always think about the kids that are like one off in a show and how isolating that must be.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember it like really, it didn't feel like work. You know what I mean? You like went and you got to go to the theater and like play dress up and play pretend. I learned like as an adult now in the same industry, a lot of what like is ingrained in me is because of my experiences as a kid in theater. I learned from like these adults. I learned from Bernadette Peters. I was such a sponge at that age. And then to also have so many like kids around me to like share in that. We were also like painting each other's nails, and it didn't feel like work. And I think that's where a lot of my real love for this business and this industry stemmed from. As I got to like grow up in it, which was really special.
And are there any other kids that you knew at that time that are like still going through the business? Like, do you ever
Oh
see
my
people and you're like, oh, hello?
Yes, especially in Bye Bye Birdie. When I did that revival, I was 12 at the time. Danny Quadrino, Ali Trim, Julia Nightel, Jillian Mule. I mean, like we are all Jess LaPrada. We're all still
Why did
in
I
the
not realize
community.
any of that? That's wild.
Oh, if you go back to the cast list of that teen ensemble in Bye Bye Birdie, it is actually stacked. Like absolutely Bryn Williams, like it is a stacked cast.
I mean, I feel like Danny Quadrino and Ali Trim, like they're Bach and Glinda right now. Like it's giving Christopher Sieber and Jennifer Smart. Like put them in my
Yep.
contract. Like every show I'm doing, I need you.
Yeah. So it is, yeah, we are all like we see each other all the time, like at auditions, at
So wholesome.
performances, at opening nights. Like we're all just and we're looking, I just turned 30 and we're all like, "Oh my God, I've known you for that long." Like I had braces in Bye Bye
Hmm.
Birdie, you know? So yeah,
And
so it's also cool to see like everyone's still in it and still like stuck with it and still love it. So
and I feel like that's also a testament to the environment that you must have been in because I think it can be very hit or miss as a kid. It's either going to make you want to go full force or it's going to be like, okay, I can't take the heat. It's too much.
yeah. And for me, like specifically after Bye Bye Birdie's experience, like I was very fortunate to work very consistently and hard from the ages of 7 to 13. And I remember my parents were very supportive about being like, "Do you still love this? How are you feeling?" Like they were always asking me how I was feeling. And so I think that was also a good thing to ingrain in a kid to be like, "Oh yeah, check in with yourself. Like see if you're still having fun, if this is still fulfilling." But I chose after Bye Bye Birdie to stop like theater and performing completely. I really wanted to go to high school. I was like, I wanted to go to proms and I wanted to be on the cheerleading squad and like do, ultimate I like played ultimate frisbee in high
Sure.
school. So I wanted to just completely kind of be a kid in like a sort of normal high school setting, which wasn't really necessarily due to the like environment because I loved doing it as a kid, but I think just as me, as Bethany, I was missing, you know, being with friends on Friday nights, you know what I mean? And
Right.
to go to the movies and the mall. So and I'm very proud that at such a young age I like had the wherewithal to choose that because I feel like that has just also influenced how I feel like as an adult now in the industry.
And when you transitioned from like being a child actor to then like going to school for musical theater and auditioning, like how did you navigate like reintroducing yourself to the industry and being like, hey, I'm back?
Yeah. I remember, I think it's like around junior year of high school when they start going like, start thinking about, which I also, it's like insane to think about it.
Yeah.
16, they're like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember like meetings with guidance counselors that were like, what schools are you looking into? What would you like to do? And I remember really trying on the hats of like, oh, maybe I would be a doctor or a lawyer or like a vet or whatever. And then nothing felt like it fit at
Mm-hmm.
all, except for like doing theater and continuing to be an actor. I think the transition was or the thought process just felt very guttural. Like it felt very like, I don't know anything else that I'd want to do. And so I'm going to choose this kind of similarly to like when I chose to stop doing it for a second. It just felt like right.
And it's so special that it felt intentional and that like you were in control of the decision.
Hmm.
And when you're choosing to like lean fully in, then you know you're going to make it happen for yourself because you're the one that's in the driver's seat of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And from an auditioning perspective, I'm curious since you were the assistant dance captain for Diana, like what being on the other side of the table was for auditions and kind of like what you're now taking from that experience when you go in the room.
Oh my God, such a good question. I learned so much from being on the other side of the table. I
Right.
honestly would argue maybe more than my 4-year BFA. Like,
Mm,
it is so invaluable to watch people audition because to audition is a completely different skill set than to perform 8 times a week.
yep.
Very much stand by that. It is a completely different mindset. It really is. You have to sort of unlock a different skill set for it. And so, yeah, what I've learned was just so invaluable. But I think the biggest thing I learned was actually the time outside of you doing the actual material, the way you walk into the room, the way
Hmm.
that you're speaking to the piano player, the way that you sort of greet the room. It's actually it feels like it's magnetized when you're because everyone is just sort of looking at you. And so it's in a way you have to kind of fill the space as much as you can with who you are.
Mm,
Um, because a lot of the conversations that happened, like post people doing the material, was like, yes, is this person right for this role? But like, majorly, is this person someone we want to rehearse with for 4 weeks? Is this person someone we want to go through a tech process and preview process with? There was a lot of people that called for like checks for their friend, being like, hey, this person we really love, how are they at this theater? How did you work with them? Like, so a lot of it is the work that you do, and that's just the preparation outside. But what I was most astounded by was how much they take into consideration just you as a human, like how you said hello, how you continued conversation, because it's true. It's like it's such a that process from an out of town to rehearsals to workshops to previews is so intimate. And you have
mhm.
to really trust the people that you bring on board for that and to sort of live out your vision. So for me, it was like cool to see people and how they worked and didn't work under that sort of pressure and what I could take away from in all of that. It was the I mean, yeah, it was the most valuable experience. If you can, highly recommend somehow being behind the table and being a part of an audition process because I remember just being like, okay, and taking notes.
It feels
So,
like you can just like Frankenstein together. Like, I loved what this person did. Oop, not doing that. And
mhm.
it's not enough anymore just to be really talented. Like, you also have to be adaptable. You have to be someone that like people want in the room.
Yeah.
And also on the other side of it, it's like I've heard so many stories. Like, I was just listening to Shoshana Bean was talking about how like when she first got her start, she like went in for like 1776, like a show she was not right for at all. And someone behind the table was like doing the off-Broadway production of Godspell and was like, no, you for this. And so no one's going to vouch for you or want to plug you in somewhere else if you're not coming in a way that like makes them excited to be around you.
Yeah. And also, like, to add on to that, I think when we as an individual, like this art form, until you're a part of a team, is so individual. And so I hear a lot of people like when they go into auditions and they don't get something or they felt like they didn't do their best, it's really like self-deprecating. Whereas you forget that like it really isn't about you personally. Like your
Yep.
your skill set is it just will work for the show or not. And it's not about you being good or bad. And I think like that was a good mental shift for me where I'm like, am I someone, a fully formed performer who knows who I am? Am I going to add to your production? And if not, I also don't want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I only want to be additive. And so I think it's a good way to sort of enter, especially as like the audition season's coming up, like to enter reminding yourself like it's not about me ultimately. I am a puzzle piece in a bigger kind of art that I will either like fit in or not. And it's not about me being like a bad singer or a bad dancer. And so trying to take that and zoom out a little bit because it can be so you're just with yourself. You're just like, did I get it? And if you are lucky enough to get feedback, which doesn't happen often, you sort of have to like somehow dig yourself out of those layers of like, oh my God, what could I have done better? What ultimately it's just when you zoom out, it's like not about you, you know?
Yep. And it's not that deep. Like the little moment that you're going to beat yourself up over, I'm sure they probably didn't notice. And if they did, they understand people make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nothing represents this more than a chorus line. And I saw you did the 50th anniversary
Yeah.
concert. And like as a dancer, what did like being on that stage mean to you? Like, did you feel your grandma right there? Because I can only imagine
Oh
that would
my
be
God.
like the most overwhelming.
Yes. She had actually passed away not too prior to that
Okay.
experience.
Wow.
Which the Schubert Theater was my Broadway debut theater. I got to do it with, I played Christine opposite my real life partner, Pierre, as Al. So that was just like in and of itself, like such a special moment. And then honoring a show that is, again, I feel so passionate about. It is so encompassing as just like what we do for a living, especially as like a dancer, someone who like loves the ensemble. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much about that show that is representative of me as a human. And then to also be a part of it, a part of something that again, maybe piggybacking off of what we're talking about, that like wasn't about us. It was
Mhm.
about this beautiful like entity that's grown and like been around for 50 years. So I actually got to work with Byork Lee in college. She came and set a production of A Chorus Line on us. At that time, I was Sheila, which I loved playing Sheila. But to see this woman, like, and that was, when was that? 2016. It's like almost 10 years ago. We did that show in college. To see her 10 years later continuing this like legacy and teaching, and that's like to see someone live out their life purpose through the show and getting to be honored enough to like dance it on that stage where that original company did that. I mean, it was so many layers. Like I could just keep going. I'm like, there's just so many layers about that night that I remember all of us who were part of it were just like, remember, remember, remember. Like we were like taking like mental photos of just seeing Kelly Bishop do the Sheila monologue. Like it was, yeah, it was just too much, but so beautiful. And that show will forever live on. And in whatever capacity, like I hope to, be a part of it. But yeah, that was a real special one. That was like one for the books in so many ways.
It also just feels like everyone involved has the same mindset of like we're on a team, like it's the ensemble mindset, and like
Yeah.
everyone that's there is mostly a dancer first, and that's such a unique thing that I feel like not a lot of people are these days.
Yeah.
And also to see by York, like 50 years of her career, like she's going around putting up productions everywhere and like still minding the show, still like putting interesting people in it, like to find a piece of art that resonates with you for 50 years from being the original company like to 50, like it's just wild to me. And
Yeah. And we really see like she uses like something so simple as like she calls certain like especially like some of the cut dancers names. Like she'll call some of them like little like ways in which she remembers them and she's been doing that for 50 years. Like it's so those little things, those little phrases, the way she teaches phrases, it all is has never changed. And although her vision has expanded, like you can see how it's so seated in her being
Mhm.
to like learn that show from her specifically is, yeah, so special.
And even just from like a macro lens, the fact that this show gave the public theater so much notoriety to then like be the breeding ground for so many shows, like because a chorus line was such a success, like the public theater was able to create shows like Hamilton, and like it has such an impact beyond if you even love that specific show. And so I think
Yeah.
that kind of like the web of impact is so interesting. And
Mm.
I also saw that you posted about that like exactly a year after Diana closed, you joined the Hamilton tour. And I feel like little milestones like that are so obvious to then be like, oh, this is why I have faith in myself. Like, this is why I'm like going to keep going.
Mhm.
And how do you like take those moments and like keep faith in that, like when maybe it's not happening in that time?
Yeah. I think I say this too, like in a lot of Q&As, because one of the biggest questions that I get often is like, when do you know that it's time to move on from the industry? Because as you know, like you will get more no's than yeses, and that's for everyone across
Right.
the board, like ultimately. And so I harp back to the fact that like as artistic humans, we have this really beautiful connection to our consciousness, to our brain, to our heart, to our gut, to our soul, that like if the time ever arises that it's like, okay, you know what? Like, I think my time here, I've put everything I needed to put into this. Things aren't happening the way that they should. And then you have external factors like paying rent and health insurance,
Yeah.
and like those things. But to follow like what your gut is saying ultimately. If your gut is saying, girl, keep going, keep trucking on, get into those auditions, like that is just something I'm always going to follow. And the minute that my gut goes, okay, now you can sit and like maybe not right now, that is something that I'll follow too. So I think in those moments, maybe of like long stretches of unemployment or what you view as like not consistent, um, are the moments that you're like, let me tap into like my gut here and see what I'm feeling, thinking. I think that you're the most creative when you're not working, when you're in those times of
Mhm.
silence. That's where like my stylist business sort of like created. I was like making things, writing things, filming things, choreographing things. I feel like everybody needs some silence sometimes
Mhm.
to really feel like passionate about what we do.
And I think
So,
it's planting
yeah.
seeds and then you don't know when it's going to grow. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
you might see like years later, oh, this came out of that time of just like focusing on what I'm naturally drawn to.
Yeah. And then being a part of like, I remember in that year being a part of a lot of like workshops and pre-pros and being a part of rooms that were creating new musical. I mean, like, and that to me, I would do 1,000 workshops in a year over a show any day. Like, I
Wow.
love that process. And it's why I do this. The show is like being a part of a show is so special, right? Because you get to like, make a living off of what you love to do. And there's a schedule in that. There's so much you can learn from that too. But for me, like the creative process, the rehearsal process, like even the preview process is something that like I would do 10 times over. And I remember in that year, I was so fortunate to be able to do a lot of those things, meeting new directors and choreographers, teams that I've like wanted to work for a while, and getting to like exercise your artistic voice. Which, when you get in and when you replace in a show, it's like this is what it is, and this is where you stand, and you can add some of your own spice here, but this is what we want. So like you're replacing in a cog in the wheel, which is beautiful. But I think for me, as an artistic person, to be able to rehearse and create is like why I do it.
I would argue like auditioning is one muscle, doing 8 times a week is another muscle, and workshops and previews is an entirely different muscle.
Totally.
Speaking of entering a show, we have to talk about Death Becomes Her. And
Yay.
we don't get a lot of heavy ensemble shows these days. And
Yeah.
so, what was it like? Because I know you joined the show like a little bit after it opened.
Mhm.
And so, what was it like joining that company and kind of finding community in every ensemble?
Yeah. Ugh, I'm in love with Death Becomes Her, like as a show.
I think
Like
everyone is.
it is just it's so complex and so beautiful and so funny and so queer and so many things. Like, and so to be able to be a part of it in any way was, I mean, just like I do pinch myself truly still like every day being like, oh my God, I get to go to like work in that building. And also getting to replace Sarah Meal in the track that she originated is also just both of us have been in this industry and we've like followed each other and like auditioned together. And there's just so that was, I think, a beautiful like full circle moment of like me getting to like honor what she created in this show because her track is so creative. Like she as a human, you just tell like she's so embedded in like all of the features she has, the Liza double, the old lady. Like there's just so much of Sarah in that. And so I felt really excited to like be seen to be and to honor that to that role to play out. And then add my own little like spice in there, the thing that I really thought of was like, oh man, this is a big show. And like you said, like the ensemble is a storytelling device. Like we are not glorified set pieces. Like we are in the show. We have so many different moments to showcase ourselves as individuals and also be an ensemble. So I remember when I watched the show, like as someone who just got cast in it, when they give you a ticket and they're like, here, like enjoy the show for the first time, like that you're gonna be in. I remember watching it going, oh my God, it's like this backstage is going to be insane. Like just like
Yeah.
seeing the elements of the show. But ultimately, as a replacement for a show that is already running, I think like a thing that I remember reminding myself was to be observant and to be a sponge. I was entering a space that was already established. I was entering dynamics within the company, within the building that have already been established for years. I mean, most of them went to Chicago. Most of them have done workshops and then come back to this to open it on Broadway. So I remember just being like, Bethany, remain like open, ears open, eyes open, like a sponge, and sort of try to slide in as like as open as possible. And so it's a good reminder as a replacement to just be observant because there's, history there in that building of the show and how the show is running that I hadn't been a part of. And so now I get to be a part of what now is into the future. But yeah, just remaining open, but it's a massive show with just such a ability to, you sort of blink and then you're like, oh my God, you've been so engrossed in how funny and how like present you are, and then you blink and you're like, oh, the show's done.
Right.
Okay. And we're bowing and we get to go home. And with Betsy now coming in, now just entered, it's breathing like a new, different life into the show. With anybody new that's coming in, I think that's ultimately what happens is like another point of view. And so you as an actor who has scenes and moments with that person, you're going, oh wow, that's unlocked something in me. And yeah, so I love the show. I love my track. Very special to do.
What can you tease about a Betsy Wolfe Madeline? Because I need to know.
Oh, gosh, she is the thing about Betsy that I think we all were just like, whoa, like what a pro. Megan had created such an iconic Madeline. Like
Yeah.
that is, I mean, that's like what we've known for so long. And I think like Josh Lehman, I don't know if you saw that video of his curtain call speech to her, but
Mhm.
everything he said, we all felt so deeply. It was like she was not only the lead of our show, but she was the leader in that building. And so to lose that, I think was really, we all were like, oh my gosh, a transition is going to happen. But to have someone like Betsy enter in and again, honor what Megan created in Madeline, but take a big swing at it, I think we were just like, that's how you do it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There's a sense of like honoring, and then there has to be an abandonment that happens when you just go, and you're like, let's see if this works. And the comedy from Madeline has to be so like throw paint at the wall. And if it's funny and it works, then you're like, okay, check. And if not, you're like, learn from it and like moving on. She just has a sense about her that is so she has a willingness to just try and
Mm.
to play and to like see if that works, see if it didn't. She's like actively finding the show. She didn't enter this building being like, well, this is my Madeline and it'll be different. She just is like, I'm finding it and still and probably will be until her time is up, because I think the beauty of the writing of the show.
I feel like that's when you take the ego out of it. It's like it's
Yeah.
not a glorified like diva turn that I need to show that I'm worthy of. It's like we're just gonna have fun and make what we can make.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really special part of Death Becomes Her is that it has like these two really strong women leading the show. First with
Mhm.
Megan Hilty, then her Janice First Samard and Betsy Wolfe, like even Michelle Williams too. Like you have
Oh,
so
yeah.
much like female leadership in the company. And like, do
Yeah.
you feel that's like a shift in the dynamics? Because that's
Oh
not
my
always the
gosh.
case. Yeah.
100%. And like, and by the way, like not like female characters that show the parts of womanhood that is like kind of ugly sometimes and like
Hmm.
kind of mean and and like all of the parts, not just a glorified version of what a woman is or what to be. So I think like what why I also love it is because like at the end like some of their final moments is like kicking this old man off of a stage to be like,
Obsessed.
we're gonna finish our song. I think that is so human and like really they weren't afraid to show every single kind of parts of womanhood and specifically like those characters. But I do think ultimately like having that at the helm is really important and being able to showcase and uplift and honor that. I just read Chris Sieber had just did an article, I think with Broadway.com.
The one with
Um,
Paul, yeah, I watched it.
yeah, yeah, about Ernest Menville and about how he wanted to sort of facilitate just that, like
Hmm.
uplift, honor, add his own sauce, but really he was able to observe like, oh yeah, my role here is to like to uplift and to
Hmm.
like allow and he's also just an absolute gem. So the the people we have leading our show are just yeah, very special and inspiring.
And I think it's hard. What Christopher said was really interesting of like just being the center, or like the eye of the storm. And I've heard
Hmm.
people talk about Waitress in the same way, where it's like you
Mm.
can go into wanting to be Jenna and want to have like this whole crazy version that's just so you. But at the end of the day, every other character in Waitress is so kooky, crazy that you
Yeah.
need to have someone to root for and like a window in. And I feel like Christopher's doing that for Death Becomes Her. Like he's setting up all of the balls to get hit by other people. And it's not
Yeah.
going unnoticed. People know that he's a rock star, but
Yeah.
it's taking out the ego of like, I need to have the joke.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. It's like I think everyone's performance is like or everyone's human entering that performance is egoless.
Hmm.
And I think that you can tell. You can tell when someone enters a show or a enters a character with a lot of ego. You can tell
Hmm.
that. And I think that what everyone does, even Michelle Williams, one of the most playful humans on stage, like truly is such a joy to be around. So ego free. Like she just enters the space and she's like, "Yes, let's play. Let's figure." Even still, a year and a half later, like so willing to adjust and play with new people. It matters. And I think that's what people are gravitated towards with our show is the sense of community, the sense of people really just like wanting to create together every night. It's not the same.
And isn't it ironic? Because all of the characters have the biggest egos in the entire world. And
Yeah.
so that dichotomy is just like perfect.
Yeah.
And we can't talk about Death Becomes Her without talking about the camp, the costumes. It is a
Oh,
feast for the eyes.
yeah.
And is there a character's wardrobe in the show that you're like, I'm dying to just have that for my life? Like that you
Oh my
want to steal
gosh.
their closet?
You know what? Like Uh, honestly, the costumes I'm in, I'm like,
Okay.
I want to take like
Yeah.
my book launch dress. I have this super super deep cut kind of green sparkly short moment. I mean, if I could take like my immortal suit and ball gown and just be able to get groceries in it, I would.
Iconic.
Uh, I think a lot of like the ensemble plots are really beautiful and really specific to the individual. Like I continued the immortal design that Sarah helped create, which I'm again super honored and excited about. But then my like pedestrian things, my moments outside were me and were mine, and I had a voice in like what I wanted to wear. And as you know, I'm such a fashion buff. I
Yeah.
like obsessed with clothes. It was really cool to see to see how they create plots for specific individuals, but then also Viola, like I'll take those gowns any day.
Of course.
Specifically like the nude illusioned where she's standing on the stairs. I mean, how can you not like want to wear that?
I mean, between that and then you briefly mentioned your stylist business, Styled by Bethany, like fashion is
Yeah.
everywhere. And so I need to know like how styling came to be, like where did this passion come from?
Yeah. I, you could trace it all the way back to Gypsy with Bernadette Peters. As a kid, I was really fascinated with the dressers of that
Mm,
show. I was really like I remember with like as the dressers are carrying baskets around and zipping things and but there was something about that I was captivated by. And I like visited like the wardrobe supervisor a lot. I remember really loving costumes and changes. And those were
mm,
my favorite parts of like, oh, a quick change. Like so and then being, I loved magazines, looking through like fashion things. So it was always a part of my everyday. I loved getting dressed in the morning. When I was in school, I used to like pick out my outfit the night before. You
of
know what I mean?
course.
So I was really in love with that. And I remember I came off of the Hamilton tour and I was like, wow, what? I have this craving to still create, but on my own terms. And I wanted to
Yep.
feel some like autonomy over that and not be told when I can be creative and not. And man, bonus if I can make some money. You know what I mean? Bonus if I can like turn it into a business. And I went to Greece with a bunch of friends, one of them being Alyssa Fox, who at that time was maybe just about to be or just started the 20th year alphabet. And we were all at a dinner table and she just randomly asked me, she said, "Yo, do you style?" And I was like, huh. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't, but I feel like you're asking me for a reason. And she at that time was doing a performance on Good Morning America, for like a kind of holiday special. And she was like, style me for this. And if you love it, you'll know. And if you don't, you'll know. And so like, let me be a little bit of a guinea pig for you and see if you like to do it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna say yes. And let's see if I like it. And I fell in love. And so it was born from a friend
Hmm.
asking me a question and me going, I feel like I have to say yes to this. And I'm going to learn a lot because once I said yes, I was like, how do I do this? I was like, what does this entail? How do I style somebody? How do I take someone's style and sort of mix my own vibe with that? Like,
Hmm.
how do I do this? And with every client I've had since Alyssa has been such a learning, like improvements of how to be a stylist and then getting to do it within the business I love so much with people I love so much is a bonus. So it really bred from an idea of wanting to be my own business owner, like a CEO, and a friend over a dinner table being like, I think you'd be good at this. Like, why don't you style me?
How
So,
special that like not only did she see something in you and she was like, I want to tap into my friend, like I want to pour into my friend, but she also like created a low stakes environment. It was a huge moment to be on GMA, but like a place that you could fail safely with your friend and like dare to try and not
yeah,
have to like worry about, oh, am I going to disappoint this person? This is my first time, like all of the anxiety that would surround that.
yeah.
And I'm so excited to see that you are styling some of the Lost Boys. And so I'm curious, like, what your process is looking like for this, like how you are balancing like what Bethany loves and like what they're gonna love.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This next season of the clients that I have so far is I'm really excited about. I have a lot of people in Lost Boys. I have some people in Cats. So it's just like some really major kind of like carpet moments. And I think what I'm excited about and what I've seen a shift in for Broadway specifically is the idea of fashion. I mean, we live in the capital of
Yep.
fashion. Like New York City is where it's at, and especially for young new designers all over. So like my goal with every client is to like introduce a new designer or a new person on the carpet because I think for something like Lost Boys and especially something like Cats, I think we have a real there's some real press around these opening nights. And so to marry that fashion with the carpets will be exciting. But I'm working with the band that wrote the musical. I kind of checked off a goal as a stylist, which is to remain with a client throughout a whole press season,
Hmm.
which is an opportunity for me to sort of flex that muscle of like, how do I create a story throughout every different press event? And I'm working with multiple people, so I have to create like consistency and a likeness with them as a band, kind of create their style. So we just did like our little kind of personal wardrobe capsule for each of them, that for the times in rehearsals where they have press or interviews or photo shoots, they can pull from. But I am really taking into consideration, I think, the darkness of the show. Vampires are really cool. What they wear is like quite fashionable. Like you got like collars and capes and like reds and blacks. And I think that's
Hmm.
like there's something very sexy there. And then them as a band kind of taking from like what they've worn before. They are all parents. And so like making it elevated and mature, yet like accessible. So I'm going in with like number one, silhouette, number two, color, and trying to create like a mood that I think the show is doing such a good job at. I got to see, again, my partner Pierre is also in it. So I'll be styling him on the carpet.
Love.
But I've got to see some of the workshops, the earlier workshops at the creation process of it, and what they are so good at and what they are really creating is like an ultimate vibe and mood of the show.
Hmm.
It's singular and it's really exciting. So I want to have that be reflected in the clothes.
You made me think of so many things. First of all, we had Jennifer Samard's stylist, Jake Sokoloff, on, and he was talking
Yeah.
about like curating for the season for Jen. And I love how you're taking into consideration the shows. Like when you guys did Tiny Desk, like Jen's dress had a circle to like emulate the hole in her stomach in the show. Like I think that attention to detail is so cool to hear about. And the fact that like, yeah, Lost Boys and Cats, they're both like such world building. And so how
Yeah.
fun it is to like lean into that. And Michelle Obama's been going on a press tour about like her new books that are all about like the fashion she chose in the White House
Hmm.
and the intention behind which designers she's like uplifting in voices that may have not ever been heard other than like when she introduces them to the world. And I think that's so cool that like you're leaning into people that aren't the name brands that you always think of, but are making such interesting clothes and such like
Oh, yeah.
dynamic, not mainstream stuff.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, and it really goes hand in hand with what we do, right? Because like all of us also are just these like little artists trying to like create. And I think like to uplift another artist trying to create in a way that is just so feels like such a marriage. Like I'm like, this is such a handshake. You're like,
Mhm.
yeah, let me uplift you and feel beautiful and confident in this new garment by someone who is also looking to like get their kind of in. And it is always my first go. My first, like, especially when I think of like carpets for opening or Tonys, like I am always going towards new designers, individual people, new cool showrooms first as a pass.
And as just like a fully formed artist, like are there other mediums that you pull from when you're creating these mood boards that you're like, oh, this song triggered me to think of like this is going to be their look? Like where are you pulling all these sources?
Totally. When I have like my first consultation with clients, I always say like, I love Pinterest.
Obsessed.
Such an easy way to like, oh my God, like yes, yes, and
Yeah.
create folders for yourself. But I tell clients, even when I'm learning them and learning what they're drawn to, their eye, their style, I say like, send me anything that inspires you.
Hmm.
Furniture, colors, weather, states. I'm like literally anything that comes across your For You page, videos of an aesthetic. Like it does not have to be like inspiring clothes because I think fashion and clothes and getting dressed is so vulnerable.
Hmm.
And a lot of the things I hear from people is like, I don't have a voice. Like, I don't know what I like. And when they put something on, they don't have a gut reaction, a yes or no. And for those people, I always like remind them, I'm like, but you are drawn to things. You do have like an aesthetic, it's just hiding in there like right now. And so I want them to send me like anything that inspires them, scents, like candle smells, anything. And that really does like inform me to like uplift ultimately their style as well.
And a trend that's driving me crazy is capsule wardrobes. And I feel like people feel like they have to commit to being this one version of themselves and they can't try on a new personality every single day. And I think the minute you liberate yourself of like, I can have one look one day, and yes, for a Tony's campaign, a run of a show, you want to have a consistency. But like as a human being, like you can express yourself as whoever you want to be any day with what you're wearing.
Hmm.
And at least for me, like the key to unlocking that has been vintage shopping. And I
Yeah.
need to know if that's like your jam, like if you're
Oh my
pulling some of
gosh.
that.
I'm like literally, we're getting off the call and I'm heading to the Manhattan Vintage Show. I got,
Oh,
yeah, a ticket to
yeah.
go today. Yeah, it's a thrift, it's a vintage find. It's all of that. I'm like, so again, we're in the hub of that too, being in New York, which is so special. The tour, that I was on with Hamilton, we were able to be in Toronto for 6 months, was like a sit down.
Mhm.
Again, Toronto is another amazing hub for thrifting. And so that was really, really exciting. But yeah, I cannot wait today to go through like some vintage archives. I'm gonna obviously have like the band in mind and just my own person. I'm like, I want to see what
Sure.
I could like pick up and get at this place. But yeah, I'm excited.
They did one at like a brownstone in my neighborhood. And the coolest part was at the top floor, they had this artist who used to work for Kate Spade as a designer. And now she's just like a freelance artist. And she did free portraits for you. So you could
Wow.
just sit and she would talk to you, get to know you, whatever. And then she would like capture your aura in this beautiful, like stylized fashion portrait. And there was this woman in front of me, top hat, full on suit, probably arguably 80 years old, had
Yep.
a DJ sized speaker sitting next to her on the floor. And she would watch TikToks out loud. And she goes, my headphones just don't work. And I go, that's the kind of like fully embodied, like, it's just so fun to see people that are just so themselves. And you can tell exactly by what they're wearing.
Yep. Yeah. I would love to wear a top hat and a suit, please. Like
And
put in let me scroll through TikTok and yeah.
it was fully unironic also. And I was like, perfect. I need to know
Yeah.
everything about you. And I heard her talking to the artist, and she's like, well, I was a performer, of course. And I go, of course.
Of course, of course. We all
Naturally.
are. We are all performing every day. It's just what it is.
I mean, what does RuPaul say? Like everything is drag.
Hmm.
It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Also, and to go back to Death Becomes Her for a second in those costumes, like that is drag.
Yes.
That is like so everything, even in the construction and the way in which they made our immortal suits, like it is pulling from that like art form. It's amazing.
I mean, it's Paul Tazwell. It's everything. Like, I'm sorry, you're doing the Wicked movie and Death Becomes Her in 1 year. Like, your life is camp, and I'm jealous.
Yeah, exactly.
And another fashion icon, Princess Diana, and you being in the original Broadway cast of Diana, like, I'm curious, just like having that style inspiration, are there like times where you feel like you're picking up on what the show is, like in yourself, like you feel like you're reflecting that moment?
Oh, when I was rehearsing Diana, I was like only in a biker short and long shirts. You
Yep,
know what I'm saying? Like, and like high white socks.
of
Like that,
course.
I was like definitely like clocking in because Diana's fashion was, I mean,
It still
is
is. Yep.
still so iconic. Like, is what people pull from for like inspiration. But yeah, I mean, how can it not influence you? Like, how can it not affect the way you dress, affect the way you, yeah, like see clothes and put things on? Death Becomes Her has added more color to my wardrobe, um,
Mm.
which I think like subconsciously, and even just like saying that out loud, I'm like, oh my God, it really has influenced like me to not be afraid of color. I am someone who likes their muted tones and kind
Same.
of like chicish blacks and grays and whites and but I'm like wearing purples and pinks and blues and like I'm very much adding some more color to my wardrobe. So for that show, that's been inspiring. But yeah, Diana was like, and talk about another like amazing costume plot. Like seeing Gina and all of those like beautiful inspired looks like Diana looks was just, yeah, very special.
I mean, I think there's something special about there are people like Princess Diana, there are other style icons that are world building. I even think of like Nancy Meyers movies. Like if
Hmm.
you can curate an entire world just based on like how you're expressing yourself in your clothes, it is so impactful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just such a treat. And I think it's really cool to see how like you're absorbing that now. And like when you are curating these capsules for lost boys and cats, like taking that world building into the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have our final question. We
Okay.
ask every guest what you hope your signature stamp will be on the industry.
Oh. Hmm. I hope my signature stamp would be one that is like observant and open. I
Mm,
want my stamp to be like a sponge. You know
yes.
what I mean? Like I hope that I like help curate some more people to enter spaces with openness and staying curious. I will never know everything ever. And I hope to like forever live my life, especially in an artistic sense, as someone who is learning and curious about it. So
Mhm.
yeah, my stamp is a sponge, and I hope to leave feeling like I'm continuing to learn from it.
And it feels like in this moment, like you're doing 8 shows a week, you know the show, but you have this creative outlet of styling that's like allowing you to kind of scratch that itch.
Oh
And that
yeah.
balance, like not all of your eggs are in one basket, just makes you a more holistic creative person.
Oh my gosh, like yeah, that's another thing that I try to inspire others is just like find you have to find those things. Like because it will only inspire a fuller version of yourself as a human and an artist. And so each goes like hand in hand, you know? So, yeah.
Thank you so much. This was such a treat.
Yay, thank you.